Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 19th of Society and Religion, and the chapter is Hinduism. Topics to be covered are Hinduism, the theological and metaphysical basis, basic cults and deities in Hinduism, Hindu social institutions, Hinduism in the historical settings, Hinduism in the contemporary period. So the theological and metaphysical basis of Hinduism is followed by a vast majority of Indian population. However, Hinduism is not confined to India only. The followers of Hinduism, the Hindus, spread over to Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, Indonesia, East and South Africa, the Caribbean islands, Guyana, Fiji, UK, USA and Canada, and in many other countries of the globe to a lesser extent. Hinduism is an embodiment of a vast body of literature. There is a vast body of sacred literature in Hinduism. There are Vedas, Brahmanas, Upanishads, Vedangas, Dharam Shastras, Nibudas, Puranas, Itihas, Darshanas, Aganas, Mahabharata, etc. So Hinduism has a vast majority of Indian population and is spread over to various states as well as countries. There are not one, but innumerable gods, and it is not essential to believe in the essence of God in order to be a Hindu. Hinduism is the oldest of all great religions of the world. In the process of social evolution and change, various sects have developed in Hinduism. Each one of the sects has distinctive sets of literatures, gods and goddesses. However, fundamental to all Hindu sects is a set of eternal belief systems centered around the Hindu concepts of Brahman, universal soul, and Atman, individual soul, Dharma, Karma, Earth, Moksha, and the ideas of purity and pollution. Brahman and Atman. Hindus believe in an eternal, infinite, and all-embracing ultimate force called Brahman. The Brahman is present in all forms of life. The relationship between Brahman and Atman has been the main concern in Hinduism. The Atman, considered to be indestructible and passes through an endless migration or series of incarnations, human, animal, or superhuman, is influenced by the net balance of good and bad karma, deeds in various births or in previous births. The goodness or badness is defined by reference to dharma. Dharma has plural meanings. It includes cosmological, ethical, social and legal principles that provide the basis for the notion of an ordered universe. In the social context, it stands for the imperative or righteousness in the definition of good life. So more specifically, dharma refers to the rules of social intercourse laid down traditionally for every category of actor in terms of social status, the stage of life, and the qualities of inborn nature. Indeed, the foundation of good life is laid down by dharma. The dharma, everyone has to do the dharma which is assigned to him or her. This dharma consists of the rational pursuit of economic and political goals as well as for pleasure. The goals of life also incorporate the goals of moksha or freedom through transcendence from the cycle of birth, death and rebirth. Dharma, inclusive of earth and calm, is a design of life, and moksha is the alternative. Purusharth. There has been a constant quest towards achieving a fruitful life in Hinduism. Pursuits of certain goals has been considered inhabitable for the achievement of such life. The integrated life of a Hindu involves the pursuit of four goals: dharma, earth, calm and moksha. The pursuit of these fourfold goals is known as Purusharth. These goals are to be pursued in a righteous way in this samsara. Hinduism is a holistic way of living and thinking. The full validity of Hindu life lies in the integration of the above four goals. This process puts every moment of life of a Hindu under self-examination and binds him with enormous social and spiritual obligations. Rins. There are four important obligations for a Hindu. These are obligations to the sages, to the ancestors, to God, and to human beings. These obligations are fulfilled through the performance of duties in various stages of life. There are four stages of life of a Hindu. These are Brahmacharya, Grihasth, Vanaprasth and Sannyas. In the first stage of life, a young Hindu should devote to study. He leads a celibate life and involves himself in the pursuit of knowledge. The second stage of life is that of a householder, beginning with marriage. So, the second stage of life is beginning with marriage. The third stage begins when the householder accepts the life of a wanderer, maintaining some linkages with the household. In the last stage of life, the old Hindu breaks away all ties with the household and goes to the forest and accepts the life of a sage. Varna Ashram. The goals of Hindu life are achieved within the context of Hindu social organization. There is a fourfold division of Hindu society in terms of four Varnas: the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vishya and Shudra. A Hindu is born into a Varna and follows his Varna Dharma in this birth for moksha, the ultimate goal of the life. According to Rig Ved, the four Varna orders emerged from the limbs of the primeval man who is a victim of the divine sacrifice that produced the cosmos. The Brahman emerged from his mouth and are supposed to be involved in the pursuits of knowledge. Karma. The notions of dharma and karma are closely interlinked to each other, and on many occasions they are indistinguishable and inseparable. If dharma is a social consciousness about the good life, karma is the individual actor's effort to live according to it. If dharma is a social consciousness about the good life, karma is also the person's, the individual actor's effort to live and to do the work according to it. The literary meaning of the notion of karma is action. According to the message of Bhagavad Gita, the direction of the karma is value neutral and one must perform karma without expecting the rewards which may be desirable or undesirable. It also accords highest emphasis on the accomplishment of karma. Popularly, the notion of karma is also related to the perceptions of birth, rebirth and salvation. It is significant that there are three pragmatic aspects of the concept of karma as practiced in popular Hinduism. Orthodox Hindu will explain karma in terms of certain rituals in the form of worship or prayer of favorite gods. Karma has to be in the form of worship or prayer of favorite gods and goddesses, which is popularly known as puja. Karma has also become identified with life cycle rituals of the Hindus. It is significant that every Hindu is to follow distinctive life cycle rituals at birth, marriage and death. These rituals are performed for the moral refinement of the individual to make them complete and perfect, and ultimately after death transform into an ancestor. Besides offerings of puja and performing of the life cycle rituals, offering of prayers at the sacred places are also important aspects of Hindu way of life and the karma. Moksha. The concept of moksha is closely related to the notion of karma and in turn with dharma. It is the reward of the persistent good deeds, karma, that liberalize the individual from cycle of birth, death and rebirth and ultimately brings him in contact with the Brahman. Hindu theology is largely preoccupied with the issue of achievement of moksha. Sound knowledge, good deeds and love and devotion towards God are three ways through which moksha can be achieved. For acquiring knowledge, an individual is required to renounce the world and lead the life of an ascetic. Basic cults and deities in Hinduism. It is significant that although various sects of Hinduism follow their own sets of literature, most of the Hindus recognize the sacredness of Vedas, the oldest text of Hinduism. Vedism was almost entirely concerned with the cult of fire sacrifice and the continual regeneration of the universe that resulted from it. These correspondences were explored in the philosophical Vedic texts, the Upanishads, in which a search for the knowledge that would liberate man from repeated death led to the earliest formulations of Hinduism. The chief Vedic gods are Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the protector, and Shiva, the preserver and destroyer. Hindu mythology has depicted numerous deities, major and minor. A significant number of these deities are the god of nature, that is Indra, the god of sky, Agni, the god of fire, Varun, the god of water, the Vahana, vehicles in the form of birds or animals on which gods or goddesses sit, the sun, moon, stars, rivers, mountains, lakes, animals, snakes are also worshipped in Hinduism. Besides, there are important localized deities in Hinduism in various parts of the country. Goddess Kali and Manasa are popular in Bengal. The trends of localized manifestation of some deities and universalization of local deities are of great sociological significance. There are enormous ties of localized culture in this great tradition of Hinduism. These ties are often reflected in the popularity of localized deities and in the patterns of their universalization. Hindu social institutions. The institutions are distinctive in nature both in terms of their form and function. These social institutions ideally operate according to prescribed norms and religious sanction. Caste is a hereditary social institution based on the principle of endogamy, hierarchy, occupational specialization, and purity and pollution. Complete commensality prevails only within it. The various kinds of restrictions imposed on intercaste relationships. These restrictions are explicit in the acceptance of food and drink by the upper caste from a lower ones, their intercaste marriages, sex relation, ongoing or touching the upper caste by a lower ones, etc. The implicit and explicit meanings are that the lower caste people are impure and by their simple touch they will pollute the upper caste members. Hence, there are various prescribed rites for the repurification of the upper caste members. Marriage. Among the Hindus, marriage is an obligatory sacrament. It is in the context that for obtaining salvation, a Hindu is required to perform certain rituals towards the gods and ancestors as prescribed in the religious texts. Some of the salient features of Hindu marriage are as follows. Monogamy. It is significant that monogamy is the usual form of marriage in Hinduism. Polygamy was also found among some Hindus based on local customs. Endogamy. The Hindus maintain the religious and caste endogamy. Though legally permitted, intercaste and interreligious marriages are very few and confined mostly among the literate sections and in the urban areas. Hypergamy. According to the rule of hypergamy, the status of the husband is always higher than the wife. The hypergamy emerged based on the marriage among different subsections of a caste or subcaste rather than between the castes. Gotra exogamy. Hindu maintain the Gotra exogamy. Gotra indicates the common ancestor of a clan or a family. People with common ancestor are not allowed to intermarry. In recent years, Gotra exogamy is defined in terms of prohibition of marriage within 5 generations on the mother's side and 7 generations on the father's side. Family. Grihast ashram is the stage of family life of a Hindu. The main objective of the marriage is reflected in the Grihast ashram. Here a Hindu performs his dharma and karma for the continuity of the family and his salvation. Thus the ideal typical family of the Hindu is joint in nature where people of 3 generations usually live together. Hindu joint family is mostly patrilineal, patrilineal, co-residential and common property ownership and a commercial unit. His family is usually composed of a man and his wife, their adult sons and their wives and children. So basically, it is a Hindu family and it is mostly patrilineal, patrilineal, co-residential and common property ownership is there, and that usually consists of a man and his wife, their adult sons and their wives and children. Inheritance. Traditionally, the Mithkushra system of inheritance was practiced in most parts of India. According to the system, a son has a birthright on father's ancestral property and the father cannot dispose this property in a way which can be detrimental to the interest of the son. According to Deyabhag system of inheritances, the father is the absolute owner of this property and he has the right to dispose it according to his will. Traditionally, females are not corpora seniori. The customary practices only provide maintenance rights to females. Women in the patrilineal society get some movable property as stridhan at the time of marriage. Hindu social institutions. Max Weber has located the stimuli of economic development within the ethics of religious belief system. To him, economic development fostered in the Western world because of the rationalization of religious ethics or Protestantism of Christianity. Hinduism has undergone a process of transformation over millions of years. Indeed, transformation started in Hinduism with the message of Bhagavad Gita, which added the notion of bhakti in Hinduism. Bhakti. There are various important facets of the bhakti movement. Let us begin. Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita recognizes the Vedic rituals and Upanishadic philosophy of knowledge as the legitimate ways to attain self-realization, which is the goal of life of an ideal Hindu. Hence, to the paths of karma and jnana, the Gita added the way of bhakti. This revived the elements of theistic elements in Hinduism. Alvars, the devotional movement, for the first time flourished in South India towards the end of 8th century AD among the non-Brahmin groups, which expressed a strong desire for theism after Jainism and Buddhism had spread all over India. Jayadev and Meera, the love stories of unmarried Krishna and Radha, have got the central place in the bhakti movement as well. Surdas, Tulsidas and Kabir. It is significant that Intense religious devotion was also expressed the luminaries of medieval bhakti movement in the songs of Surdas on Krishna, Tulsidas on Rarna, and in Kabir's devotionalism. And in also of Jayadev and Meera, it emphasized on total devotion to God as a means to self-realization. In this movement, Krishna is symbolized as the supreme soul and Radha as the individual soul. So, Jayadev's Gita Govinda, written on the eternal love of Radha and Krishna in the later part of 12th century, has spread all over the country. Tulsi's bhakti was that of a servant, Das, devoted to the service of his divine master. The love of God for the devotee, who dwells on his own imperfection and therefore on divine grace, is a central theme of Tulsi's sublime poetry. Encounter with Islam. Hinduism has been responding to the external religious influences since the classical period. It is very difficult to assess the impact of Islam on Hinduism since it has various dimensions. Northwest India, these invasions led to the development of Hindu ideal of territorial kingdom as a mode for protection of Hindu values, and there are also many evidences to show that over the years various Muslim themes and features have been incorporated into popular Hindu myths and rituals. Kabir's and Nanak propagated devotion to one God that combined aspects of Islamic Sufism and Hindu Bhakti. Encounter with the West. The Hinduism has been widely influenced by West and the beliefs and practices of Christianity. Various reform movements started in Hinduism in the 19th century as a direct impact of Christianity. The Arya Samaj was founded by Swami Dayanand Saraswati in 1875. This movement rejected the Puranic Hinduism and attempted the return of Vedic Hinduism. The followers of this mission uphold strong tradition of Bhakti and Tantric strains along with Vedanta philosophy and Ramakrishna's experiences of the oneness. It is engaged in a variety of cultural, educational and social welfare activities and has branches in cities throughout the world. The Ramakrishna mission, modeled after European Christian missions of the 19th century, has provided a model for numerous Hindu organizations. Internalization of Hinduism. The Ramakrishna Mission and International Society for Krishna Consciousness have made important efforts in this matter. And also, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The devotional Hinduism with its missionary aspiration was spread over the USA, Canada by the followers of J.S. Keon, popularly known as Hare Krishna cult. The founder of the society was Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a Bengali by birth, was initiated by his guru Bhaktivedanta Saraswati to the path of bhakti. Individualized cults. Hinduism has been a breeding ground for the emergence of personalized religious cults in recent years. Some of these cults have received wide attention from their followers. Politicization of Hinduism. In Hinduism, there has always been a tradition of tolerance and hospitality to other religions. These elements of tolerance and hospitality has paved the way to declare India a secular state. And it is significant, in 19th century there were the revivalist tendencies and attempts in Hinduism advocating a return to the Vedas, and that was expressed itself in the Hindu idiom. So that was all about the Hindu religion and Hinduism. These are some of the questions. Explain how Bhagavad Gita revived the theistic elements in Hinduism. Question number 2, mention a few important impacts of the encounter of Hinduism with Islam. That's all we have in the session for you. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.